Thank you, Amanda. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. In the next 30 minutes, we will go over how you can fill gaps within your Sage solution and what we've done for some of our other clients in helping them fill their gaps. And we're hoping out of this session, you'll get some ideas. If you have any challenges or gaps in your solution, then you're more than welcome to come to us and speak to us and see how we can fill those gaps in your environment. So most of you who are in the session today are using either Sage 300, Sage Intacct, or some ERP product that you have. And as I mentioned, as part of this session, we want to help you understand how you can do more with your Sage if you find that, or you believe that, if Sage had this functionality, it would be so much more efficient to use the screen, or if I only could do this with my Sage solution, or I am into a very specific industry and Sage that doesn't necessarily do that, but if I had that function, that would make my life so much easier. So with all of those scenarios, we have helped clients fill those gaps. And as I mentioned, I want to share with you today what we've done for some of our other clients, and hopefully that will give you an idea of how you can eliminate those gaps in your environment. So as you know that whatever product that you're running in terms of whether Sage 300 or Sage Intacct, there are some standard add-on products that are available. There are also some third-party add-on products that are available, such as your EFT processing and so forth. But in addition to that, BAS team have developed their own add-ons based on what we have come across with our clients in terms of what they need in addition to what is already available that is specific to their business. And my focus today in the next 30 minutes is to talk about the BAS add-ons. Now the session is only 30 minutes, so obviously we cannot cover every single tool or add-on, but I'm going to cover some of the popular ones and the ones that we believe would help most clients. And again, just to share ideas, and if you have a scenario that is different, we hope that this idea will help you come up with other ideas that could benefit your organization. Again, we could see how we can fulfill that gap for you. So the first add-on that I want to talk about is the BAS Bridge. The BAS Bridge is an integration tool that we have created internally at BAS based on what we've come across. We support over 5,000 clients across different solutions, and we have over 200 consultants, working with these clients, and they all have different experiences in terms of integration requirements. So we put our heads together and we came up with this integration engine that helps our clients integrate one or more systems. Today, we have so many of our clients using the BAS Bridge, so they're not having to enter data in multiple systems manually. They're not having to do imports and exports. They can use the BAS Bridge engine to simply establish a system of record and then decide how the information is going to be shared through the BAS Bridge with other systems that they may have in their environment. What you see now are just some examples of BAS Bridge. Again, we couldn't fit all of the integrations or BAS Bridge versions on one slide, but I wanted to cover as part of this session some of the popular ones. And again, just to give you an idea of how it could benefit your organization. So as an example, the BAS Bridge works with a product called Bamboo HR. Bamboo HR is a cloud-based HR system. And what we do using the BAS Bridge is we connect to Bamboo HR and we pull down employee demographics information, their pay information, their job information, their time card information into Sage products. So if you're using the Bamboo product as your employee or HR system, then you're not having to enter your information manually again in your Sage solution for payroll processing or any other function that you may be doing in your Sage solutions. We have the integration with Bamboo HR. We also have integration with Concur, which is an employee expense management solution, as well as AP automation solution. We have a number of clients using this solution, and Once the expense are approved, so the employees would enter their expenses in the Concur solution, and once they're approved, the BAS Bridge automatically pulls them into your Sage solution for payment processing. We have the integration with Criterion as well. Criterion is another HR product. And again, we integrate employee as well as timesheets from Criterion into your Sage solution. So similarly, we have integrations with other products such as EasyCare, which is a web-based time management system, Polar Imaging, which is AP automation solution, Salesforce, different integration points with Salesforce, such as your customer informations, the opportunities come in as quotes, the confirmed or approved opportunities or closed opportunities come in as sales orders in Sage and so forth. We can bring different exchange rates depending on what website you want to connect to using the BAS Bridge into your Sage solution. We've had great successes with Shopify. We have clients with multiple web stores on Shopify, and we bring information from Shopify into Sage and vice versa. We have integration with HubSpot, Nexonia, which is another employee expense management solution, and many others. So the BAS Bridge has the ability to connect to any of your systems that you may be running in your environment or even in the cloud, and automatically bring or pull down information into your Sage solution. The BAS Bridge can connect to one or more system at the same time. So if you're running, let's say, a cloud-based system and two other on-premise, and by on-premise I mean systems that are running in your local environment, you can use the single engine of the BAS Bridge and exchange information from all the three systems with Sage. So you could have, for example, Bamboo HR, which is a cloud-based HR system, and you can use BAS Bridge to bring employee information down. You may have a customized, homegrown customer billing system that is on-premise or on your local service, and you can use the same instance of BAS Bridge to pull information from Sage, let's say for customer master data, and push it into your billing information so that your billing information system has the latest and the greatest in terms of customer master data. So you don't have to have different integration points. You can have the one engine that can pull and push from Sage from a single or multiple source systems. And we just wanted to share an example, and I briefly talked about that in the previous slide, like in the sense that if you have an on-premise system for, let's say, customer billing, you could decide that your customer master information is going to be Sage. So every time you have a new customer, you enter them in Sage, BAS Bridge will automatically push them in the customer billing system. And once your billing is done, BAS Bridge will pull the completed invoices into Sage so that your financials are reflected in Sage when you run your GL financials. So you're using the one engine to perform both functions. And similarly with the cloud system. So to summarize, BAS Bridge has different capabilities. It can connect to cloud systems, it can connect to local systems, it can connect to more than one system, and it can connect so that information is exchanged in bidirectional mode to and from Sage. In the next few slides, I'm going to share some screenshots that we have for the BAS Bridge, and this is an example of the BAS Bridge Shopify, where, as you can see, we try and make the end user process as simple as possible. So there is no technical interpretation in terms of how am I going to pull this data. So all you see is a small window. This is if you're running the process on demand. With the BAS Bridge, you get two options. You can decide to say, I want to pull the information when I decide to, which is the on-demand process, or I can just schedule it to run it overnight or whenever you decide to do that, once a day, twice a day, and the information comes into Sage automatically. So I'm showing you the on-demand process here, and as you can see, the user screen is very simple. You're not clicking on a lot of options. The language is very much user driven to say, okay, what do you want to process? I want to process these types of requests through this date, and you hit process and you have it. The information is synchronized. So for the Shopify integration, we have the customers coming from Sage into Shopify. in some cases, we have orders coming from Shopify into Sage. We have payments, refunds, shipment confirmations, inventory going from Sage into Shopify, and so forth. So we have different integration points, and we continue to build this in terms of what moves from Shopify into Sage and so forth, based on the implementations that we do on our customers, and we keep enhancing. The BAS bridge doesn't have any hard coding in this example. What we're showing you is that it's highly configurable. So for example, if your connection to, if you're running Sage Intacct and your connection changes, you know, everything is configurable and encrypted in terms of the connection, so that when you have the integration running, the authentication is seamless to the end user. The integration is running behind the scenes through proper authentication. And in addition to that, we also have configurable parameters. Depending on what version of the BAS bridge you're running, you know, we have the parameters that the system administrator can maintain, so that you're not working with a hard-coded value of parameters. In the BAS bridge, we also support data mapping, and what we mean by that is, if you're integrating 2 or more systems and the data pointers are different. So for example, you can have Canada as the country Canada as CA, or fully spelled out. And if you have any differences, then we enable the mapping in the bridge, so you're not having to change data in your source system for the integration to be successful. So mapping is fully supported in BAS bridge. We talked about the integration on process demand, and it will fully show you the logs of what has been processed. So as an end user, all you see is, once we have the BAS bridge configured in your environment, all you see is, once the order is entered in your Shopify system, it shows up in your ERP system. In this case, we've shown you an example of Sage Intacct, where orders are entered in Shopify and they show up in Sage Intacct. We talked about the configurable mapping. Here, we're showing you an example where, for the Salesforce, if you decide to integrate the different entities such as customer, contract, item, invoice details, we are able to go down to field or data element level and say what comes from Sage 300 into Salesforce and vice versa. So the BAS bridge is highly configurable, so that if anything changes in your environment or in your source system, we are able to manage that without making code changes. We have, and I just wanted to, so I shared a few examples of the BAS bridge, its capabilities, and we've had many successes with the BAS bridge, but one example that I wanted to share was this client that is using the BAS bridge to connect to 15 different systems. And the reason they have to connect to 15 systems is because they have different revenue streams, and each of the revenue stream is running a specialized solution to capture their sale or their revenue information. And they're using the BAS bridge to connect and then bring down the revenue at the GL level, so that whenever they look at their financials, their revenue center is always up to date with what the revenue system is bringing through the bridge. So that's one of our great successes with the BAS bridge. Just to summarize on BAS bridge, if you have any multiple systems and you're doing multiple data entry, speak to one of us, and we would be happy to share, you know, how you can integrate and what efficiency gains you can have in your environment with BAS bridge. The next set of utilities I want to talk about briefly is some of the Sage 300 utilities. And these are interesting, and I say interesting because some of these utilities help you do the backend functions, the database level function. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you have your fiscal period defined as January to December, and you've been using Sage for 3 years, and now the management team decides to change the fiscal period from June, July instead of January, December. Our fiscal change program enables you to do that, because in Sage, if there's no standard functionality. So with the fiscal period change, you're able to say that I now want to change my fiscal period to be June, July, and it'll go through all your transactions and everything and update that for you automatically without you going through the data repair process. So a lot of our clients that decide to change the fiscal period, make use of this utility. Another example that I have is if you're running, let's say, your accounts receivable module or even payroll module, and you have, let's say, your customer numbers numbered in a way like 1001, 1002. 3 years down the road, you've exhausted the 4 digits and now you want to organize them so you have them 5 digits. You can use our customer number change utility and say, everywhere where you find a 1001, replace it with 10001, so that now you move from the 4 digits to the 5 digits. And what this utility will do, it'll go over the entire Sage database and change every single instance of that customer to the new number. The advantage of you not having to get stuck into the coding system when you decide to, when the organization evolves, when it grows, these utilities help you change things so that you're able to keep up with some of those structural changes that are much needed in your environment. So we have different utilities. I won't go through them all, but those are some examples. The other set of utilities that we have is making the data entry simpler. So for example, if you're entering an AP invoice, and I'll use the example of Sage 300, you have to enter the batch description, the header information, the detail information, depending on whether you have set up your AP expense account default. If you have not, you probably have to populate the GL account or the distribution code, put in the amount, and post, or save and post. So quite a few clicks and steps. With our Excel link, what we provide is a very simple sheet with 4 columns, and you go, here's my vendor, here's my expense amount, $200, and the utility comes with a lot of default settings to say use the vendor's expense account or distribution code, or let you even type the GL code in the Excel sheet. However, you're not having to navigate between header and detail. It's a very simple Excel sheet with 4 columns. You populate the data, and from within Excel, you can say, okay, save to Sage, and a batch will be created for AP. Based on what you've typed up in Excel. So we have that simplified input for AP, AR, GL, any of the modules that you have in your Sage 300 solution. The next set of tools that I want to talk about briefly is process-based tools. And by process, what I mean is, these are sort of foundations that we can use to provide you some of the automation. I'll use some examples as I go through some of these products. The first one is the BAS alert. So right now, you probably, if you have to monitor exceptions, then you have to run your reports and see what's going on and make decisions. I'll give you an example. If you wanted to monitor that if anybody changes the customer credit limit, a designated user needs to be modified, you can use the BAS Alerts product, and it's configurable. So all you need to tell us is, I need to be aware if customer's credit limit changes. So once we install the BAS Alerts product, we will configure an alert to say every time a customer credit limit changes, this user needs to be notified. Now, I'm showing you an example here of somebody who changed a customer address, a simple example. And it can come in as an email, such as what I'm showing you in this slide, or we can even send that as a text message. An example would be, I talked about earlier, credit limit change, or if somebody changes a vendor's EFT account information, and you want basically an audit report to say, I want to see in an email, because I don't care about text messages at that point, all the vendors whose EFT information changed during the day as an email log. Then you would go get a report such as what I have on the screen with all the vendors, and if their EFT changed, what would be the new information. Again, if you want to monitor exceptions, we can put in the alerts, and you can get notifications by email or by text. The other product that I want to talk about quickly is if you're running Sage Intacct, and we all know that Sage Intacct is cloud-based, so you don't necessarily have access to your data. We have a product called Sage Intacct Backups, and you're able to download that data into your own database, have it available locally. Not only that, here I'm showing you an example of everything that is downloaded onto your server, and then you're able to generate reports out of that. So, you know, if you're running Sage Intacct and you want to connect the data with your other systems to run your report, this would be an ideal product because you can download the data, connect to your other systems, and run your reports. You are in this example here, I'm showing you a product called BAS Web Reports, and you're seeing a window where the report is coming from the BAS Web Reports. The BAS Web Reports doesn't use any of the Sage licenses. You are able to pull the data, and the report runs in a browser, so you don't need an installation or you don't need a license. You just simply need authentication, which your administrator can create a username and password and so forth. Once you have the URL through the browser, you're able to run a report and perform Excel-like functions. And what I mean by that, I'm sure most of you on the call are heavy Excel users. You can do filters, you can do, like here what I've done, I've grouped the output by customer number and transaction type. So it's showing me all the invoices for customer number 110 and all the invoices. If I wanted to do it by, let's say, document date or whatever, I simply can drag the column and put it in the grouping column, and I'm able to see the output. I'm also able to drill down. So here I have the invoices. I would have the invoice summary, but if I wanted to see what made up that invoice, I can drill down and see the line level details. So pretty powerful add-on process-based tool for called the Web Reports. You're also able to format the output of the report if you wanted to. You can put in logo and some static titles, and this is an example. You wouldn't want to generate invoices, but this is just an example that you're able to, if you wanted to generate document-based reports, you're able to use BAS Web Reports to do so. The other product that I wanted to briefly touch on is the Wise Planner. Wise Planner basically simplifies your GL budgets. So what it does is it connects to your Sage, and instead of what you see here is a Sage screen where typically you would type your budgets line by line. Instead, you're able to put in your budgets in Excel. You use all your Excel functions such as copy, do formulas, and when you're done, you simply save to Sage, and all of the budget information will be populated in the Sage screen. So again, very simplified budgeting tool for our Sage 300 and now Sage Intacct users as well. We also have a tool called item pricing. If you're running the inventory module and you need to maintain your item pricing, we show every single item, different price lists, and in a grid-like view so that you're quickly able to update the pricing information and report on audit log to say what prices changed in the last month. So very, very powerful tool if you're running multiple price lists in your inventory control module. We have a tool called AR Collections, and this is when your customers haven't paid up and you need to send them copies of invoices and so forth. So we have a very simplified screen here whereby you're able to see anything that's outstanding by the aging periods. And if you decide to send them copies of the invoices, it's basically a click of a button and it'll say, here are the copies of invoices that are outstanding. Instead of going into Sage and creating PDFs and emailing, you are able to perform your queries and go, okay, I need to go after Mr. Acme because they've been they're due 90 days over for a large amount and so forth. So again, these are just some of the examples. We've had great successes with our add-on products, and the idea is, as part of this session, was to share with you some of the successes we've had. Like I said, we have a number of products in our repository. We can share ideas. If you feel that you have a gap in your standard solution, come talk to us and discuss what we've done for some of our other clients, share some of the tools we've had, and maybe we'll be able to fill that gap for you in your Sage solution. You're not having to eliminate Sage entirely just because of that small gap. Most times we've seen a small change have resulted in a big impact. So we're happy to have conversations with you if you feel that you would benefit from some of our add-on solutions. So with that, Amanda, I'll open up for questions.
So we do have some questions here. So our first question is, what is the process to obtain a quote on Bass Bridge? We need integration with Shopify.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. So the process would be, we would engage a pre-sales engineer, like a 15-minute call. We'll understand what your integration requirements are. And then once we gather or understand what the objectives are, we'll have a follow-up conversation in terms of the options, what we're thinking. And once we get your feedback on the route you want to take, we'll be able to provide you with a quote at that point. With the Shopify as an example, we would need to understand how many web stores you're running, what data do you want to sync. Like, most clients want to just bring down the sales orders from Shopify into Sage. Some clients decide to sync inventory from Sage into Shopify. So we would have conversations around what you want to do, and then we'll be able to provide you with a quote after that conversation.
Perfect. Second question we have here is, do you have clients for this? Do you have clients for the solution you have talked about today?
So the answer is yes. In fact, I can say all of the solutions that I've talked about today are being used by our clients in some fashion. Some clients are very creative when they look at the tool and they go, oh, I could use it, but for this purpose. So they may not always use it for the same purpose. They use it for different purpose. But yes, we have clients using all of these tools.
Perfect. Next question is, I am a Sage 300 user and I need to implement some business rules on GL batch posting. Are you able to do that?
Yes, that's an interesting one. The answer is yes, we're able to do that. And in fact, we've solved that for many clients. And you may need, for example, before you post, you need an approval, or before you post, you need to type in like an approval code so that you're able to post different ways. But yes, we're able to implement some business rules before a GL batch is posted into your Sage.
Perfect. That does conclude the question period.
Very good. I thank you all for attending today's session, and you're welcome to connect with us after today if you feel that there is a follow-up question or anything that you would like to clarify. We'll be more than happy to arrange a call. Thank you everyone for attending.